We see his progression of his character, his values, his ideals show up. Here, in the earlier days as a student in Presidency College, Kolkata, he drew attention of not only his peers, but even from the authority when he slapped Professor Oten for something or derogatory comments or something he did to Indian students. And that cost him his career. His study in Presidency College was terminated. He was expelled, and then he found himself in studying in Scottish Church College in Kolkata. By the way, as a side note, I would mention that most of you also know of another luminary from India in a different, completely different field, Srila Prabhupada, who was also a student at that time of Scottish Church College. They were born pretty much same time, 1896 and 1897. And after that, he went to study in UK for his ICS, Indian Civil Service. The class that British wanted to set up to rule over the rank and file. However, it always does not work the way you envision. He, instead of coming back with a lucrative job that paid him £100 at that time, he sent his resignation. This is the copy of his resignation letter. Written April 22, 1921. It says that I want to, I will not read this letter because it is difficult to see from this angle, but I have received an allowance of £100, £100 up till now, and I shall remit the amount to the India office as soon as my resignation is accepted. So at that time, leaving a lucrative job and deciding to delve into freedom struggle was not something, I again want to emphasize, not something that was supported by all the members of his family. You can appreciate that and see that in spite of all the resistances, all the lack of support from his own family, his decision was not changed. So here it shows his virtues and the values. 1930 National Congress session. Before that, he was also made President of Indian National Congress once. But this time, he was put against a candidate from Gandhi, Sita B. Pattaramaya. And he defeated Gandhi's candidate. That was by itself a news for the whole of Congress and whole of India. But what did he do? He had position, he had prestige, he had a very well-charted path to become India's first Prime Minister. He left Congress 1939, April 29. What does it show? Shows that he was not, unlike his peers, running after power and position, fame and power. Here, he was considered a personified valor, the heroism. He was the patriot of patriots. And his value showed in being equal, regardless of community, regardless of gender, caste, age, etc., etc. That's why we'll see, I will bring up a letter where he shows the same values that he stood for. Here, some of the values that made him the stature of the leader that he was. His convictions were very simple. Enemy's enemy is a friend. In that backdrop of Second World War, where British were ruling almost the whole of the world at that time, how he could do a justice to earn freedom, not beg freedom, without following the same principle of enemy is a friend. And that led to the success, although temporary. He formed Indian National Army first time outside the Indian soil in Singapore. He had got the commitment from so many thousands of families who were ready to give all they had for his cause, for his call. He had got, by that time, 60,000 soldiers in his army. Here, I just picked up a few bullet points to show how much of a visionary he was. In 1938, he proposed quit India. And Gandhi started his movement to quit India in 1942, 4 years from then. But his call resulted in the impact on India's freedom by his activities. Although he was officially made dead in 1945, August, there was a revolution, naval uprising in 1946, and the Indian army revolted and led to the freedom of India and by the admission of Lord Attlee later to Governor P.V. Chakravarti. So his character summarized in these bullet points, that he was ready to court arrests for motherland, renouncing prestigious positions, and his spirit was uncompromising. So here, the history as written by not the victor, history as written by those who were ruled. These three are considered the real architects of India's freedom. You can probably recognize them. So I won't go into details for the sake of time. Here are some of his quotes that inspire everybody. One individual may die for an idea, but that idea will, after his death, incarnate itself in 1,000 lives. And that's what really happened. We see the truth in it. It is only on the basis of undiluted nationalism and of perfect justice and impartiality that the Indian Army of Liberation can be built up. So that was the underlying foundation of his. Now here, as a tribute to his deeds and his stature and his values, his ideas, we can only do a little bit to ask for erecting a statue in Houston, just like we have a statue of Gandhi in Herman Memorial. And I have spoken to Krishna Bhavilala, who is the person instrumental in putting that statue up there. We should also put the history right. We have been told lies, we have been told